Hello everyone, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. Today's Kraftgali Design Team Project is brought to you by Neat and Tangled Piece of Cake. So I'm pondering and I'm thinking about what we're going to do. These are my thinking fingers, and we are going to play with this set to figure out how this humongous stamp could be used for more than just maybe what you think. So sometimes people get stamps like this because they're really super fun to color, but sometimes they're kind of overwhelming to color. And so we're going to show you a few ways to kind of hit all your moods when it comes to this. So the first one that I'm going to do now, I'm only going to show you coloring for the first one, and I'll talk about the coloring in the second one, but we're just going to walk through this first one here. I'm using some Bristol Smooth cardstock, some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and I'm going to heat set that with some clear embossing powder. I like to do that when I watercolor because it gives me little canals to kind of hold the water in a little bit easier. And you have less of a chance of going outside the lines, although somehow I managed to find a way regardless. Now I will say when I colored this image in for the video, in hindsight, I should have zoomed in a little bit more, so I do apologize for that. But I also did speed this up really fast because I don't necessarily think that's the focal point here for this video today. Really, it's about stretching your stamps, figuring out how to use them in different ways, and just having fun with them. But I am using Arteza Real Brush pens. I am using my water brush to pull out the water. As you can see, especially when I do the chocolate icing on the top, you want to put the darker color right where you think the shading might be around, and then maybe a next tone color, maybe like a medium type shade. And then the water brush will basically pull out that water to make that lightest shade. So you can mix multiple colors together if you want, but I find this to be the least time consuming and the easiest way to use these pens. And so as I'm going through this coloring process, you could just see what I'm doing here. These colors are, I kind of could not, as you can see, I could not choose between vanilla cake. Did I want strawberry cake? What kind of icing? So I was all over the place, and I was all over the place in the second card too. I think I was just having too much fun. My favorite cake, because I know you were all super curious, is vanilla cake. So I absolutely love vanilla cake. Now, if there's a piece of chocolate cake in front of me, I can't imagine myself saying no to it. But if I had to choose, I would choose vanilla cake. I think that's yum yums. And I also like the confetti cake. Of course, that's like out of a box, but I don't know. I have never made a homemade cake a day in my life. But while we're on this topic, let me tell you what the kids and my husband and I do every night. So every night during the week, our little ritual now is to watch Nailed It on Netflix. And that is basically where these mediocre bakers come together and they try to recreate like fancy baking, cupcakes, cakes, whatever. And I'll be darned if it wasn't one of the funniest things I've watched in a long time. And the kids, because my kids are 9 and almost 6, and they get such a kick out of it. They think it's hilarious. But it also has piqued my interest in learning how to bake a little bit. Because you know what it is? Like when I thought about it, and I thought, well, I've never really wanted to bake, so why is this show so interesting? It's because of the decorating. Because it's like painting. And it's like crafting, but you get to eat it in the end. So it's like even more instant gratification than my card making. So yeah, I think what we decided to try to make first are cake pops. So if you have a good recipe, or you can point me in the direction of a good recipe for a cake pop, I am all ears because we want to try that. I think that would be so much fun. The only fun thing that I know that's not like make, cupcakes from a box and slap some Sara Lee icing on it is we make these, we call them chocolate peanut butter eggs. that we make that we used to make a lot when I was a kid, over Easter. And it's basically like one of the easiest recipes ever to make. But you roll them in little egg shapes, this little peanut butter mix, and then you dip them in some melted chocolate, which is like more on the dark chocolate side. And they're just really good. And I really want to make them this year. So anyway, I guess that was sort of on topic since I'm coloring up a cake here. But yeah, so into Nailed It. I'm going to try something out. And then if you follow me on Instagram, I'll post my Nailed It because I can assure you it will be reminiscent of the show. I just already know. So that'll be a good time. Okay, so I'm finished coloring up this image. I am going to throw my heat gun on that a little bit just to heat set that. Yeah, because I think I'm going to add some sparkle to it, and I didn't want the color moving around too much. I actually don't think I was on Bristol Smooth this time. I think I was on some watercolor, Arteza. It was Arteza watercolor paper. So I do apologize for that. That was not Bristol Smooth. And so that was kind of fun to see how the colors move on the Arteza watercolor, which is the 140 pound. It's amazing cardstock. I will tell you that. So I'm going to put some fun foam on the back of that, and then I'm going to mount this on my card. And I'm just going to do a couple things to finish off the card. First, I'm going to put some sequins here. I'm having a hard time finding the Neat and Tangled Magic sequence, but I will try to link that below if I can. But I'm just going to place those down with my jewel picker here. And then I'm going to use the little ball on top of their party hats. I'm going to use some Nuvo Dream Drop. And that's just going to add a little bit of fun. Now, I did put a sentiment up there in the front. It says another birthday. And then on the inside, I stamped piece of cake. Of course, I didn't show you. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to finish it off with some sparkle pen. Because who doesn't love sparkly cake? The other day, real quick, I got a piece of cake from the cafeteria at work. And it had glitter in it. And I didn't even question if it was edible. I was like, glitter? I'll take it. Thanks. And here are the close-up photos of this finish. So this one was the traditional stamp the image on your paper or your cardstock, color it in, and call that a day. So that was technique 1. Now technique 2 is going to be a little bit different because we're going to cut it out. Yes, I fussy cut that. And it was fussy. And it took me 20,000 years. No, it didn't take that long, obviously. But I did cut it out. And I cut right up against the line, and then I went back and I cut out all the people. Now, I'm going to need to slow my roll because there was no need to cut out that fork, like at all. So I would highly recommend against doing that. That was very difficult. I think I felt a tear welling up in my eye. So do not cut out the fork, please. Spare yourself. So, all right. So now I have this background that's been laying around in my stash, begging to be used. So I pull it out, I cut it down with a Lawn Fawn rectangle stitch die. And then I'm going to go through my stencil storage here. This is how I store my stencils. And I do have the stencils labeled for the ones that I know the company. And I pull out the star one because I think it's just too fun not to use for a birthday cake card. And I am going to take some Blueprint Sketch with my makeup brushes. I kept this blending in real time. Because, am I totally lying to you? I think I might have sped it up just a little bit. But it was really to show you how quick and easy this blending tool works for me. So it's like, listen, get in there, ink it up, and move on with your life. That's how I feel about these blending brushes. And they're so fun. I just love to use them. All right, so I have my stenciled background here. I think that just adds so much fun to it. And now I'm going to start putting down my pieces. Now, my idea here was let's make a layered effect. Because if you notice, the images, like this girl, is behind the cake. So I'm going to put her flat down onto the card. Then I'm going to pop up the cake with one layer of foam tape. And I'm going to line that up right where she was. So everything is going back together. It's almost like piecing it all back together, but at different layers. Now you can do this a couple ways. You can actually cut or stamp and color 3 or 4 of them and layer them that way. That's one way to do it. I've seen cards like that. Or you can just do it this way and just cut out what you have and kind of piece it, layer it together. So I popped up the boy on the upper right at the same level as the cake. I am putting now my boy down in the lower right. He is double popped up because he's in front of the cake. And then I believe I make the other one on the left here with the fork even with the cake, which brings me back to my first point. You don't need to cut out. You don't need to cut that out. So if you could hear the angst in my voice, it was because I was struggling getting that thing out. Okay, so now I've got that done, and I am just going to add a little bit of sparkle pen to my icing. Oh, and by the way, I colored this in with some alcohol markers. So that was it. It was very easy and very fun to do. Very bright, bold colors. That was the idea there, and I went with it. I am going to use some art glitter glue to place down on the back of my card panel. And then I'm going to place that on some gray cardstock that I cut down just smaller than A2 size. And I am then going to take that. Now I switched up glues, right? Because I did a glue review, and if you haven't watched it, check it out. But I'm loving a bunch of glues, so I'm trying to be fair because art glitter glue has slowly been taking over my craft room. But I got to use up my stuff. And there we go. I just want to show you a little bit of that layering technique on the card. So that's the second way that you can do it, is kind of have a little bit of fun with your images. And you can do that in any way. You could, any stamp that you have that has kind of a scene built into it, you can chop out some of those scenes and then layer them up on top of each other. So, okay, moving on to the last technique kind of way to use a large stamp. And this is going to be minimal work, minimal effort. I am going to take some light pink cardstock and some picked raspberry, and I am just going to make a dark kind of shadow around the card so it brings that centerpiece really, really bright and highlight. Then I'm going to take some VersaMark ink, which is a sticky ink, and I'm going to ink that up completely, stamp it out onto my cardstock. Now, because I just used Distress Oxide, I need to make sure that that panel is dry. So I took it to my heat tool for quite a while. I just didn't show you that. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to pour some silver embossing powder. Now it looks like a mess, but I take it over my trash can right here and I'm going to flick it off, and most of that powder comes off because I did use an anti-static powder tool, which is a little bag that helps me with that static. So I'm going to heat set that. Now I have an embossed image. And I am just going to place my sentiment right there in the center. You can leave it just like this. You could dress it up however you want. I opted to take Nuvo drops, Nuvo Dream drops, crystal drops, jewel drops, stickles, and just add a bunch of different accents to it. So I really only put color on the apple and the candle. And I would have done this a little bit differently to do it again, or I think I'm probably going to go back and add a little bit more color in other places, but you can maybe just do their hats, maybe just do their shirts, like anything you want, just to kind of dress up the card and make things stand out. And that's the third way, the easiest way, the quickest way. That card took me no time at all. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. That'll do it for the cards today. Hopefully this gave you a little bit of idea on how to use some of those really large stamps that we love because they cover a front panel, but then they also intimidate us. So we need to kind of work that out, and hopefully this helped. Thanks so much again. I'll list everything I used below in the description box. Don't forget to hit subscribe. And we love hearing from you, so comment below, and then also find Kraftgali on social media. There's a Facebook page linked below. Check that out, join, have some fun with us, and we'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.